welcome to this 12th episode of the Synergy Flavours Trendcast. Today we are going to be covering the topic of guilt-free indulgence, particularly with a focus on the bakery market and how we're seeing snacking changing as a result of the pandemic. So today I'm joined by my colleagues from Ireland, Italy and Thailand. So I will let them all introduce themselves and then we'll get started with our discussions. So I'm Natalie Drake, I'm Category Manager for Bakery at Synergy Flavours in the UK.
And I'm Lorraine Kelly, I'm Senior Category Manager for our Dairy Taste Division, working closely with our international teams across categories.
So hi, Cholagan, I'm working for the ASEAN Marketing Executive here.
Hi, my name is Jamie Blake. I'm Business Development Manager in Trieste in Italy, working with Southern European and Eastern European markets.
For joining today. So we're going to be talking about healthier snacking and guilt-free indulgence. So I wanted to first start off by talking about snacking and how that's changed as a result of the pandemic. So I've definitely noticed that there's a trend for consumers snacking a lot more, even though they're spending perhaps more time at home as a result of the pandemic. And we've seen lots of innovation from manufacturers already around this area. So in the US, for example, there's been a number of companies that have launched snacking boxes. So the idea being that you have your snack boxes ready for when you're working from home, and you don't need to kind of go out to the shops and look for those snacks. You have them ready in your home already. We're definitely seeing this trend because consumers are turning to snacking and indulgent treats as a source of comfort. And obviously it's very anxious times at the moment. No one really kind of knows what's going to happen in the future. So consumers are turning to food as a result of that. But then on the flip side, we're definitely seeing consumers more focused on their health. So a lot of consumers are now saying that they're more concerned about their weight. Since the pandemic started, they're more focused on things like immunity and kind of boosting their all-round health. So with that said, we definitely need to look at things like how we can balance the treating side of things with the health aspects of snacking. So we're going to explore some of those trends today. But before we do that, John Lacan, I'm really interested to know if you've noticed similar trends in Asia with people snacking around the pandemic.
Well, yes, I think the pandemic is forcing consumers to change their behaviors or perception. So the threat of the infection is reinforcing the importance of having a healthy immune system. So the consumers are now looking for a new product that messaging around immune system support or having a functional added in snacking.
Jamie, are you seeing any similar trends in Italy or Eastern Europe since the start of the pandemic?
Yes, Natalie, I would confirm the trend in the markets that we operate, both in Southern and Eastern Europe, particularly on the savoury snacking side. In Italy alone, we've seen the sales of savoury products increase by 30% compared to sweet products. So that translates also to the snacking category, let's say. So that's certainly something that I've been seeing in the market, both in Italy and in Eastern Europe.
So the next area that we wanted to cover is talking about the rise in natural claims. So obviously, as we know, people are more focused on health, but one way that manufacturers are trying to overcome and encourage consumers to buy products is by having more natural claims on their packaging. So it's a really interesting area. We're starting to see that ingredients lists are becoming much shorter, and manufacturers are really highlighting ingredients that are more recognizable by consumers. So a phrase that's been thrown around a few times is that idea of store-covered ingredients. And they're really looking at things like botanicals, natural extracts, anything that consumers will recognize and create more of a natural positioning for these products. And with consumers as well, if they see natural, they almost feel like it's healthier and better for them. We might also start to see a rise in things like organic as an area of natural trends as well. Another interesting area around this natural trend is the idea of the use of vegetables in more products. So it's definitely something that we're seeing within snack bars. So vegetables are increasingly being used in replacement as for fruit, to make products sweeter, but also to give that more healthy, natural perception for consumers as well. So Jamie, I know there's quite a lot of focus around natural and organic in your markets. Could you tell us a little bit more about the kind of trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you touched on a few of them there, Natalie. The trends in terms of naturalness as a overarching health and wellness trend, and that's the bakery category is certainly no different in Southern Europe and Eastern Europe. I think overall, it's kind of this health and wellness trend is certainly a naturalist and is driving the new product development, certainly in the bakery industry. In the past 5 years, it's actually the category with the most new product launches. So 15% of new product launches fall under the bakery category. And I think it's more relevant to the market. I think it's really, I suppose, cleaning up the labels, both from a flavor point of view, of course, but also from an ingredient point of view. So you touched on manufacturers looking to make the ingredient list as short as possible, and that's something certainly that I have seen, particularly in Italy. One area is certainly around the whole grain and whole wheat flour industry. It's kind of formed a subcategory of itself within the biscuit category, for obvious health reasons, such as the high richness in vitamins and other nutrients that are more associated, let's say, with health than white flour, for example. So as I mentioned, that's actually an established category. It's growing at a volume rate of 9.7% per annum since 2016. And we've seen actually, as in 2019, 30% of all product launches in biscuits were actually of this whole grain type, let's say. A second one you mentioned was organic, and it's also a very hot topic, let's say, at the minute. It's the second highest claim, according to Mintel, for new product launches in bakery, behind palm oil free, and particularly within biscuits. It's increased by almost 20% in the last 3 years in Italy. So this is really driven by, of course, being environmentally friendly, but also because it's perceived superior taste, lack of additives, and chemical free also.
So moving on from natural, obviously the easiest way to make products healthier is to look at reducing calories. So we're seeing lots of different ways from manufacturers of how they can reduce calories or reduce the amount of sugar in their products. So we're seeing, on the one hand, things like natural sugars being highlighted. So manufacturers using things like fruit juices or kind of dried fruits in their product to make those products naturally healthy, or stating things like unrefined. So using things like natural cane sugar, unrefined sugar. Some of those products have a lot of healthier connotations with consumers, despite the fact that they still have that same amount of sugar content within them. But then also we're seeing innovation around sugar-free, reduced sugar, but then also this idea of reducing sugar by stealth. So the idea that manufacturers are taking sugar out of products and not making a claim on the packaging. They're just doing it more to tie in with government regulations or any levies that are coming in. So really just doing it from a regulation point of view. Obviously, it's always a challenge with taking sugar out of these kind of products, because they still need to taste really good. And actually, 76% of biscuit consumers rank taste as the most important factor when buying biscuits. So sugar reduction is obviously really, really key for manufacturers. But I think the fact that consumers still want the products to taste good is probably slowing down the progress in this area as well. So Lorraine, could you give a bit more detail about the work that we've been doing to support our customers with guilt-free indulgence in their products, please?
Of course. Yeah, so I guess the term guilt-free indulgence is probably new, maybe over the last number of months. We're hearing a lot more of it. And in some ways it's conflicting terms to think of both having indulgence and for it to be guilt-free. But really, consumers have a greater interest in having better for them products. So it's really about having snacks that are good for you, that are satisfying, about adding more of the good ingredients and taking away more of the bad ingredients. And they really don't want it to conflict with their health and weight aspirations either. So in terms of, for manufacturers, I suppose what that means for manufacturers, it's about taking more of the bad ingredients out, moving from, you guys mentioned it earlier as well, it's, cleaning up our ingredient labels, so shortening them, cleaning them up, moving from artificial ingredients to more natural ingredients. That would be more in maybe, let's say, less mature markets. And then in more mature markets, as you come to maybe the UK, you're seeing a lot of interest in moving from natural flavors again to specifying out botanicals or the extracts and where they're coming from, what regions. So again, I suppose the idea as well is that our consumers, in terms of, they want to be more satisfied in what they're putting in, but there's also that guilt that comes with, I suppose, cost of products. And I think that's where biscuits and snacks are sitting in quite a comfortable place, because they are more affordable. And that's something that I think people are watching their spend more as well at the moment. Another area, I guess, as well, in terms of when you're adding good things back in. So you mentioned it, Natalie, the idea of adding vegetables as an alternative, maybe source of sweetness, or take it in a savory direction. Botanicals, functionality is a big one now as well. And Chanel mentioned that earlier. So I suppose our immune system's putting things in like more fiber, more protein, more seeds, more nuts. But with that then, so you also have a flavor challenge. So bringing in those new ingredients affects how your flavor and your taste performs in your biscuits and snacks. Often it can, mask or depress the flavor intensity of your snacks. There can be off notes. There can be a lack of maybe indulgence, that indulgence taste, the satiety that you get with it. So we in Synergy, I suppose, there are like a number of areas that we're working through. So our Synergy Pure range would be extracts and essences. So tea, various botanicals, coffees, vanilla. We're working with a lot of manufacturers in that area. Organic flavors, Jamie mentioned as well. And then I think maybe more so with the dairy taste division, it's taste modulation. So when you are, I suppose, wanting to retain indulgence, you've added new, more challenging ingredients. It's how can I make it have better mouthfeel, better creaminess, maybe better fatty notes or salty and sweet notes. So we have a lot of products that we work closely with our customers on to boost sweetness, to boost the indulgence effect as well. And that's, I think, Natalie, what would you see? I suppose you're at the coalface as well of working with manufacturers. What do you see is happening in biscuits in the UK?
Yeah, similar to the things that you just mentioned, I think it's tough times at the moment because manufacturers have been tasked by the UK government to reduce sugar in their products by 20%. So the deadline for that guidance has now passed. We've seen a sugar tax levy that's been introduced in soft drinks. And there's rumours that levy could be extended to food products as well, if not enough progress has been made in sugar reduction. But as you say, there's still this trend where consumers want to have a biscuit, a cookie or a cake as a treat. So they still want it to taste really good. So I think it's hard for manufacturers at the moment. But as you mentioned, we're doing a lot of work in this area and trying to bring that indulgent experience for consumers, but obviously with the reduced calories on pack for the manufacturers. So it's all about getting that balance right and having that same taste experience for consumers, I think. But yeah, it's just finding the balance between the two.
Isn't it? Yeah. And Chanlakan, you were saying you were at the trade show in Thailand recently. I think there were some interesting products that were coming out.
Yeah. Actually, I did have a chance to visit a trading show here in Thailand last week, and there's a lot of innovative product increasing, like such as a crispy ball that made from the multi-grain and fruits, like the crispy rice snacking that they are seem interesting and creative. Yes.
And Chon Lakan, is there any advice from the government at the moment in Thailand in terms of reducing sugar in products, or are there any guidance or regulations coming in that you see in the future?
Currently, I don't see any guidance, but I think there quite impact here in Thailand as well for the sugar reducing. But I can see like many manufacturers, they are like, reformulate the receipt, something like that. So I think it's quite impact in Thailand as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Jamie, in Italy as well, I know sugar reduction and reduced sugar in biscuits is quite a key trend for your market as well. Is there any particular trends that you're seeing at the moment?
Yeah, absolutely. Natalie, sugar reduction is a very on-trend topic at the minute, particularly in Italy, but also in Eastern Europe. I think in 2017, 60% of Italians kind of declared that they would like to eat more products with less sugar. And although there's no actual government legislation or targets set by the government bodies, industry took it upon themselves really to answer to the request of the consumers, and started off with sugar reduced products, but that has since actually evolved. I think Lorraine and yourself, Natalie, have mentioned the challenges with taste and with texture when reducing sugar. So it's actually evolved into I suppose a new trend, let's call it, which is very topical at the minute in Italy. It's actually no added sugar, something again that you mentioned earlier, Natalie, about kind of, I suppose, putting them under the bracket of natural sugars. So it's actually replacing sugar with maltitol. And this obviously has a health benefit for the end consumer, as it has less impact on blood sugar levels. So we see all the major companies in Italy in the bakery category, not only in biscuits but also with croissants, with snacks, all producing and launching without added sugar products. So basically with maltitol and not with sugar. So that's very, very trendy. And also in Eastern Europe, there has been a movement, probably slightly behind in terms of development at sugar reduction in terms of this trend. But certainly we've seen some examples of products launched, sugar-free biscuits and sugar-free cakes. So absolutely in both geographies, it's very topical at the moment.
Yeah, definitely. Lots of challenges for manufacturers at the moment. So moving on from sugar reduction, I also just wanted to touch on functional claims, which I think is probably quite a new area for the bakery category, definitely, but it's something that we're seeing across lots of other categories like beverages and sports nutrition products and things like cereal bars and snacking. So we're definitely seeing a move towards the addition of things like protein and fiber in products. And the idea of that is manufacturers are trying to create this permissibility for products. So, for example, if you add protein into a chocolate bar, a consumer would perceive that as healthier than just a standard chocolate bar. And we saw that with Mars launching protein variants of their chocolate bars in previous years. And Cadbury's have also followed along the same trend as well. So it's particularly interesting, I think, for indulgent categories like bakery. And I think the added protein trend will probably continue to grow as well. So Chon Lakan, I know that also you've seen a growth in high protein products in Asia as well. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Yeah, sure. I think the healthy snacking is a growing food trend, as consumers are now seeking for healthier snacks that contain like nutritious and natural ingredients. So they are basically turning toward a high protein snack that can fulfill the basic nutrition needs of the body and stay healthy. Besides, based on the data from Intel, there's an increasing of growth rate at 11% for high protein product by comparing the product launching in 2018 and 2019. Yeah.
Yeah, really interesting. And I think the other area to mention is gut health, which was already kind of a growing trend in the kind of beverage and dairy space, but we've seen definitely a rise in that since the pandemic started, as gut health is increasingly being linked with immunity claims. So I think probably in the future we're going to start to see more products with gut health claims or added fiber. And yeah, I think that's going to be another trend that grows quite a bit more. Lorraine, any particular other functional claims or trends that you wanted to call out here? So Lorraine, as you mentioned previously, we can't forget indulgence. As we know, consumers still want their products to taste really good. So we know that these products are consumed as part of me time, and definitely with the pandemic and the kind of uncertainty that's going on at the moment, we know consumers will be treating themselves a little bit more as a source of comfort in these kind of uncertain times. Chonlakan, could you tell us about any flavor profiles or interesting trends that you're seeing in Asia at the moment?
Yeah, sure. So refer to the data from Mintel. So I think cheese and dessert flavor now seem to be growing in Asia. Like for example, the Gurigo brand, the Japanese brand, is bringing a new flavor like smoked cheese to its pressed product for the first time. Even the Thai dessert like mango sticky rice flavor is also being used with some new product launched in Thailand as well.
The mango sticky rice sounds really, really
yes.
good.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. We're also seeing from a UK point of view the dessert profiles coming through. So I think it's that idea of nostalgia and taking people back to what they know. So seeing lots of comforting flavors coming through, things like sticky toffee pudding or cherry bakewell, your kind of traditional desserts that you would get in the UK. Jamie, any particular interesting areas on the indulgence side that you're seeing in Italy?
Yes, Natalie, I think it's probably been a return to the past. This COVID has brought a return to the past in terms of the traditional profiles that again are starting to appear. Obviously, you have the likes of your mascarpone, likes of your tiramisu profiles, your creme brulee. So all kind of vanilla custard, creme pat. So all of them have, I suppose, let's say, with the increase of snacking and people wanting to treat themselves during these difficult times, we've seen increases in that area, let's say in Italy, but and also in Eastern Europe. There's been some interesting insights recently in terms of flavor trends. I would also like in Asia, as Chonlakan said, that certainly we've seen a lot of savory and cheese flavors. I mean, trendy recently. Gouda in particular is one that is very present on the Eastern European market, and I don't think it's probably very very difficult to look elsewhere from it, but also some cheddar and some smoked cheese and paprika as well. So the savory flavors, let's say, as a whole, are really kind of coming to the fore during this pandemic. And then on the other side, you have just general flavor trends in Eastern Europe, such as your cereal in combination with fruit inclusions, which is one that was particularly trendy in Italy up to very recently, let's say. So probably tapping more into the health and wellness trend, and citrus fruits again. So it'll be interesting to see how that evolves now, with obviously the health benefits that citrus fruits like lemon and orange bring, and the involvement, I suppose, of consumers' attention towards their immunity and their, during the COVID pandemic.
I think, Natalie, as well, as we're moving to maybe healthier snacking, I wonder, will we start seeing more savory snacks as well? We're starting to see them pop up, but I think it's only 1 in 10 of biscuits are savory at the moment globally. But as we move towards health boosting ingredients, sometimes the healthier ingredients, the fibers, the nuts, the cereals, the spices work really well in savory applications. So maybe we'll start to see more of that. And then I think particularly when we see our colleagues in Asia, I think ideas like the Japanese influence of Hokkaido cheese, Hokkaido milk, I wonder, will we start seeing more of that? And then I suppose the other side as well is the US in terms of crackers. The younger age group are the highest consumers of crackers, but it also drops off then once they reach to 18. The consumption of those as snacks is reducing because I suppose they have so much other choice, but there's an opportunity maybe as well there for brands to look at more adult profiles, so more adult savory profiles and world cuisines there as well. Allowing again to move away from the sugar content and build in other ingredients instead.
So that concludes today's episode of the Synergy Flavours Trendcast. I just want to say thank you very much for the team for joining me today in our discussions. If you want to see more of our Trendcast episodes, you can visit our website, or you can also visit our YouTube channel. And also, if you'd like to see all of the latest interesting news and exciting things happening at Synergy Flavours, you can follow us on LinkedIn and find more information there. So thank you very much for joining us today. I hope it was useful and hope to see you again soon.